Well, we've done this song and dance before, so let's go out there and introduce the individual teams together. Because when it comes to this San Jose Sharks trade piece, Timo Meier, we have ourselves some more analysis put out there by Frank Seravalli on dailyfaceoff.com that explores the likelihood as to which teams could be more involved than others in the Meier conversations in general. So, once again, let's bring it over to Frank Seravalli and his journalism on Daily Faceoff, and look at the article Timo Meier is the new number one on Daily Faceoff's trade targets board from 2 days ago. That's when it was, right. This was already talked about on the channel before. We had made a few videos going over this specific trade targets board, but if you go over to the first person on the list, it is indeed Timo Meier. By the way, the first person was always Bo Horvat, but now that he's gone, or not gone, but already traded, there is a new opening for a guy to take the number one spot on this list, and Timo Meier just so happens to be that guy. This is the profile of the player, just in case you have missed out on every other video we've made about him. He is a left-wing San Jose Sharks guy, 26 years old, 51 games played, and he's got 28 goals, 20 assists on the season, 48 total points if you go over to Elite Prospects and you look at his projection. He's currently on pace for 77 points in an 82-game year and 45 goals, which would be a career high. Very good, talented player, good top six forward, just a scorer that knows how to do things properly. He's playing on a bad team, and even though he is so, he is still finding a way to boast up some of the best numbers of his career. Take a look at the contract situation. He has a pending RFA with a $6 million AAV right now. He also is due a $10 million qualifying offer. Let's take a look at the analysis put out by Seravalli because it highlights two teams that are frontrunners. Start spreading the news. Ooh, my goodness, I love that. Start spreading the news. The Rangers have set their sights on Meier as the number one target leading up to the deadline. Keep in mind, Sharks GM Mike Greer knows the Rangers. Ooh, my goodness, I love that. He knows the Rangers organization inside and out, so they would make great trade partners. And across the Hudson River, the rival New Jersey Devils would love to land him as well and create a timeless Swiss connection between Meier and Nico Hischier. Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald wasn't exactly cryptic when he said he's looking for a top six winger under team control. For the rebuilding Sharks, Meier is one of the few assets they can move freely for a massive return. While the qualifying offer due will diminish San Jose's return, most teams believe they can negotiate a long-term deal and keep Meier in the fold. For more detail, read Meier's trade deadline player profile, which is also linked on Daily Faceoff. By the way, this initial article is going to be linked in the description too if you want to go ahead and read this. There are more than just Meier conversations on this, but either way, I wanted to focus on the two teams mentioned in this paragraph, the Rangers and the Devils, entering a bidding war for one top scorer. Does this not sound familiar? I feel like we've talked about a lot of guys who have been top players and how both of these teams have sort of been in and out of the mix in trying to acquire their services. There were a few rumors about JT Miller heading over to New York. I think I saw something about him maybe being a Devil. The Devils have been linked to Besser and Garland, and then you have, of course, the Johnny Gaudreau thing, which happened in the summer. Obviously, we know there's a lot of history between the Rangers and the Devils, but just seeing them both entertaining conversations for one guy makes it very interesting when you acknowledge how each of these teams could outbid the other in some sort of a Meier trade. We've talked about the trade price being somewhat of a first-round pick plus a prospect and a young roster forward or a young player. It's always the price, isn't it? Like, it's always that for anybody who is of significant value on the trade market. Bo Horvat got exactly that. A first, a young prospect, and a player too. So any of these guys entering the trade market sort of has that template as their predetermined trade return. But when it comes to the Rangers versus the Devils, if I'm San Jose and I'm trying to ship out Meier, try to get as much value in return, I'm eyeing, when it comes to pick versus pick, the Rangers first over the Devils first. Is that fair to say? I mean, the Devils are a better team. They're probably going to finish better in the playoffs. So just from a standings point of view, hey, the New York Rangers first is likely more valuable. Then you go over to the roster players. I feel like when it comes to the quality of, let's say, the middle and bottom six of each of these teams, I don't know personally if the Devils would be more willing to trade somebody away than New York would be. Mostly because, as we said, the Devils are a better team this year. Therefore, they should be, in theory, a lot more faithful to the guys they already have on their team. Meanwhile, for the New York Rangers, you have yourselves Lafreniere and Kakko, who have been included in rumors everywhere. Like, it's crazy how much these guys enter the trade conversations, whether it's Patrick Kane, JT Miller, or whatever, and I feel like they are such defaults when it comes to this conversation of trading away a roster player that all of a sudden that's a good chunk of value taken up already in the younger guy aspect of the trade too. Then you talk about prospects, and I mean, it really would just be a question of Alexander Holtz versus anybody else, because you know Holtz is going to be the guy the Sharks are going to target. They have William Eklund, his best friend, already in their system, but when it comes to the Rangers and their own prospects, they definitely aren't slouching in that department either. They have themselves a Brennan Othmann that was drafted recently that I am a very, very big fan of, and then you have yourselves the guys they had taken recently too. Adam Sikora is a good defensive forward that they drafted in the second round of last year's draft. You have Will Coyle, who has been really hyped up the past little while here. It's kind of interesting to me seeing the hype train start out for him. Dylan Garand, the goaltending prospect, is sort of struggling this season, admittedly, but he has always had a pretty good amount of hype behind his name too. I will say, though, when it comes to just prospects in general, aside from Brennan Othmann, I really do feel like the Devils have a lot more valuable prospects that they might be willing to trade away. I say that because they have themselves that score in Alexander Holtz, but they also have some pretty good young defensemen that I've been such a big fan of. We're not talking about Nemec and Hughes, but I've always been talking about Seamus Casey. We've made videos about Shakir Mukhamadullin in the past. There are other prospects who have really found their own, like Dawson Mercer, for example, who is on the Devils right now. And so, ultimately, I feel like the younger guys kind of favor New Jersey a little bit, and they might be a little bit more willing to trade those guys away. But if you include Capo, Kakko, or Lafreniere in the conversation from the New York POV, it all of a sudden becomes a lot more equal, and you really start to boil it down to just weighing out the picks and weighing out the guys you would receive in return. One thing's for sure, though. If you had yourselves a conference call, let's say you get Rangers GM Chris Drury, Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald, and San Jose Sharks GM Mike Greer all on the phone together, and you said, hey, okay, we're going to trade Timo Meier to one of you guys, but you're going to have to outbid each other because we need to get the best price here. All of a sudden, you have yourselves an entertaining conference call that I think could really provide some good value for San Jose once everything is said and done. But of course, it all boils down to just negotiations, what each team is comfortable in giving up, and whether or not the Sharks would be okay in accepting any of these trades with, let's say, I don't know, Brennan Othmann and a first plus another young guy who was drafted a little bit earlier too. Who really knows? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're a Rangers or a Devils fan. What is the most that you would be willing to trade away for Timo Meier, and how exactly do the contract negotiations go out there and affect whatever decision it is that you have to make? We had seen some other rumors talking about Jack Hughes and the Devils and how apparently they don't really want to sign anybody over an $8 million AAV deal because Jack is supposed to be the ceiling. We've talked about the Rangers in the past and whether or not they could use a guy like a Kane or a Meier and how they might be willing to trade away some of those younger talents. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're a fan of any of these three teams. If you're a Sharks fan, what is it that you think you're actually going to get for a Timo Meier, and who do you think is going to be the winning team? Ultimately, I know y'all probably just want to see Meier succeed because he's a good player playing on a bad team, and you would like to see your team get a whole bunch of stuff in return, but what is that stuff exactly? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.